Hello, this is Quaz, and I just finished the match with Zeromh, where he brought me to a last of 5 match, and this was the one that decided it. So it was 2-2. He had just changed out Stolen Purples, which was a pretty evil chip for Midoriya to face for a secret move. And the game was actually one of the ones that featured a lot of crazy mechanics and Hail Marys and kind of risky plays that just seemed to balance out after we both made them. So in the beginning, I have Zane, whose goal is to get this Crash Potato for Midori's Crash Gem. So let's see how it starts out. The plans are very simple for Midori to get purples, like the combine the Crash Gems, and to take out Zane with a rush down, while Zane is going to attempt to interfere with that plan by either using the puzzle chips or stealing a Crash Gem and using Max Anarchy. So here is the first turn. I choose to crash to stay low pile height, so I have more time to play while Midori is going to be rushing me down. I get a combine. The first turn buying a combine is important because you don't have to worry about Midori using his rigorous training on a chip that can get him a combine, because he only has low cost chips at this point and doesn't even have it at this point, so it worked out well for me. And then we get to Midori, who goes into Dragon Form, ends his turn. Dragon Form will prevent him from buying purples, but he will be more dangerous with his extra crashing power. He is able to start crashing additional gems each turn that can't be countered. So now I've got to worry about this rigorous training now because I know it's in his hand. So let's see what I do. Maximum Anarchy. It gives him a lot of options here for arrows this turn, but it turns out he's not going to be able to use them. As you see, he has 2 chips, so the 4 arrows isn't that big of a deal. So I go on. I just get nothing but gems. Gems are okay though. I choose to buy an axe kick. Not really sure that was a good plan or not. Didn't actually get to use it much. Probably would have been better off buying a Crash Gem or a Combinatorix, which would have been good late game. So fortunately, no rigorous training again, and we go on to the next round. Okay, so Midori gets his extra pile height. He decides to go ahead and start crashing, which is why I crashed in the beginning, because I knew I would have lots of gems coming my way. He does Purge Bad Habits. He had the extra arrow from Max Anarchy, so that was a small bonus for him. One reason I would do this, though, is because I cycle the Crash Gem away from my Crash Potato. So I'm trying to get his Crash Gem with this Crash Potato, and if I didn't Max Anarchy, the cycles weren't going to line up. If I do Max Anarchy, there's a 50-50 shot they line up like they do here. So we see him going for an axe kick too was better for him than was for me. I combine and I grab his Crash Gem. So fortunately end up having to buy a wound, but Crash Gem stealing is much more important. And Max Anarchy lets me cycle through my hands a lot faster anyway, so wounds don't really mean too much. Not as much as they would. So now he's got to worry, okay, well, he has a Crash Potato, not as good as Crash Gem because it can only shoot off these ones, and he's Dragon Form anti-ing 2, and as you see, doesn't have much to do here, so he will skip his turn. Buying a Gem Essence. Gem Essence is good for Midori, especially if he can get an Improv, which is one of the counter picks he put in earlier, because it not only lets him play his normal turns, it's going to draw and play extra chips as well with that blue arrow. So Midori does need forks, and that is one way for him to get it. And this is going to be an upcoming turn for him that's going to be really nice. Unless I combine and then, as you see, I could have Max Anarchy'd, I chose not to. Probably because I have a good turn coming up and I wanted to keep my Crash Gems going. I think my plan at this point was to try and get a little bit more threatening with a additional Combine, trying to crash at least 4, probably 5 or more with crash bomb, which lets me basically do a double crash. Okay, so this is going to be a good turn. I probably should have max anarchy here, so that might have been one thing I didn't do. And this purchase of Now or Later is actually pretty important because it's a cheap draw for Zane, and I actually do have a wound already to try and trash, so I might be able to use it for that. And because I have max anarchy generating me arrows, I need to be able to spend them, so this is one thing to use to spend it. Probably Axe Kick is a better thing to get, but I don't have the money for it. So Midori's going to have a nice turn. He gets the Crash Potato. I don't have it in my discard, so he can't grab it. And as you see, this is a bit of a funny moment here. See if I can go back, because I kind of missed it. He has a Crash Potato, and he has Dragon Form. And Crash Potato is usually a pretty pathetic crash. It can only crash a 1. It's never really a threat. But with Midori's Dragon Form, Crash Potato does actually send up a 1 uncounterable gem crash, so that was kind of funny. That he was able to do that. So here he goes. He buys a chatting a little bit. He buys an Improv, which is one of those chips that he's going to try and use with his blue chip arrows. And here I Crash Bomb. So I Crash Bomb here because I already have a Crash Gem. So I have 2 Crash Gems, so I can get rid of 1 and not have to worry about it too much. And I have a feeling that he is not prepared to handle being at 10 pile height, because as you see, he doesn't actually have a Crash Gem. So no Crash Gem means he's going to be reliant on a Crash Potato just to survive. Oops. So we go here. I just buy some money so I can try and get some more Crash Gems later. And we'll see this next turn is pretty cool. He decides to drop Dragon Form, allowing him to stay at 10 pile height, because otherwise he would be unable to survive with a Crash Potato. He uses that to just kind of thin his deck, and he gets a Axe Kick, and the Axe Kick gets him a Crash Potato, which saves him by being able to crash that back at me. So I let it go. I did actually have a crash, but I wanted to use it to crash at him again, so I did not want to counter it. Okay, so he buys a Crash Gem because he dropped Dragon Form. Now he's got a Crash Gem. And now the question is, do I just win here? Maybe. If you see in his hand right here, he does have a Crash Gem. I didn't know that, but it was like a 50-50 shot that he wouldn't. So as you see, I just crash 1 because I figure 1's going to be good as 2 if he doesn't have it. So we go here. He does have it. Crashing 2 here doesn't actually improve me at all because he's not going to die to 2 any more than he is to 1. If he can't counter crash a 1, you know, it doesn't matter anyway. But I'd rather keep the 2 in reserve in case I can get a bigger threat later when he doesn't have a counter crash. So here he has a nice turn. Gets his Axe Kick on, gets his Improv on, gets Dragon Form, which might actually screw him a little bit because now he can't buy any Crash Gems, which he might have wanted to do. And he had mixed feelings because, you know, it does actually give him a stronger power for later turns, but he can't buy a Crash Gem, which he could have afforded, which would have been nice for him to do. So here, do a Crash Bomb, lets me crash a discarded Crash Gem. I figure he had a Crash Gem last turn, he probably doesn't have it this turn. And as you see, he only has a Crash Potato. So let's see what happens here. And that was my only Crash Gem that I had left, so a little double-sided, but I think, in my mind, I'm just killing him here. But we'll see what happens. So I figure now's a good time to send all my manpower at once because I don't think he's going to be able to counter crash, and he wasn't able to, especially with the crash in his bag. Could have been in his hand, but I was hoping it wasn't. So here I might have made a mistake because I buy a Crash Gem, and because he has Rigorous Training, it is something where he is able to use it, and as you see, he grabs a Combine. Bit of an issue for me to let that happen, because now he's got a Combine where he didn't earlier. but I did need a crash gem because without it, it's a little bit difficult. So here's a crazy play. He has a crash potato, and I'm like, well, it's not enough to crash 3. There's no way he's going to be able to stop me from winning this, I thought. But as you see, gets a double axe kick into gem essence. All very good things from Midori. Then he improvises the exact thing he needs to survive here, pretty much. Combine and crash gem. If he'd gotten Dragon Form Rigorous Training, he would have been toast. Or if he had gotten a combine in any of those, he would have been toast. So that was a perfect improv. He gets to play both. He gets the extra arrow as well, so he can, well, he doesn't actually need it because he had extra arrows. But here he crashes, and it's looking like a pretty safe all of a sudden for Midori, who's able to even use the crash potato to get down to 8, bring me to 7. And now I'm not actually threatening too much. I don't have any combined gems. I don't really have the draws he does. You have 1 axe kick, he has 2. And he gets another combine because he's not in dragon form. So now I'm really starting to worry. And here I combine, and I draw. Unfortunately, I grab my crash gem, which I didn't really want to do. But because of Max Anarchy, I have a lot of options to bring it back later. So he is now looking to exact some pain. He's got a pretty good set here. Fortunately, he really needs this gem essence, and he doesn't have it. If he did, he'd have a very good turn. So he does the crash potato just to steal my crash gem back. So he grabs it out of my discard. At the time, I wasn't expecting that. It kind of surprised me. He was willing to make that his only move because he didn't have any arrows, but I think it was probably worth it because Midori does love having crashes available. Might have been good to try some other option, but I think that was a good one. This turn's going to be very good for him. 2 combines, a crash. He's going to get 2 draws plus improv. So he's going to get most of these played as well, if not all of them. So he's looking to play his entire hand. You might think that Midori's probably going to win at this point. That's what I was thinking too. But I throw in a Max Anarchy, hope for the best, and I'm hiding Midori's hand because I don't want you to see it. It's kind of dramatic. We go axe kick. I use that for draw because I need to get as much as I can. I combine, and unfortunately don't have a crash. Crash I'll probably have to buy right now because I don't actually even have a crash. He crash potatoed me back my crash, so I couldn't even do it. So now I'm back a little bit better. 3 gem pile, or 3 gem my gem pile, so I might have a chance to do something. But now let's take a look at Midori. And Midori has a wonderful hand. And it's unfortunate that he's not able to just completely kill me at this point. He probably could have if he'd gotten a little bit better hand, like this other crash gem or some of these arrows here that he needed. Because if he went into dragon form and had 2 crashes, I think it might have been too much for me. So now we get this. He could have sent the 3 over uncounterable, and it might have been his best option actually, so I'm not sure why he chose to keep it that way. Probably he was just very comfortable knowing he had a crash gem coming and he was going to be sending 4. Possibly a mistake there. So I max improv last turn. I'm going to as well right now. And I gotta hurry up here. I max Anarchy, get this, I get that, I get a Crash Bomb. Crash Bomb sends 5 over to him. Exactly basically the chips I needed. And then unfortunately, Max Anarchy left him with this mess. And as you see, he is going to combine, crash, and doesn't have a second crash in his bag. Max Anarchy left him without either of his draws, his improv, So he had 4 chips in his bag, any of which probably would have generated him the win, and he didn't get it. So that's it.